official Riot Games Wild Rift EMEA Championship.
Everybody round, yeah, know we get hype. Everybody round, everybody round, everybody round,
Welcome back to the Wild Rift European Championships last chance qualifier playoffs. Almost couldn't say that sentence. I'm Scoundrel, joined by Stu. We've got another series coming your way today, which is going to be Team Dark versus Team Queso. And of course, WREC's absolutely swept away clash in the previous series. This time round, Queso hoping to return to form against Team Dark here, Stu.
Yeah, definitely. They were kind of disappointing, really, in the WREC Formula 2 formulation and didn't really secure that top 4 spot. But as you saw with my video at the start of the day, they qualified through Purge anyway, and they did win the Purge tournament, the Wild Rift EU series. So they're back, and they got obviously the last chance to try and get themselves to Barcelona, which, as a Spanish organization, I think they're going to be raring and ready to go, because I think they definitely get there.
Yeah, it would be really, really good to see Queso make it to the live finals in Barcelona, of course. Now let's go over to Hells, though. He's standing by with some key points for this series.
Yeah, thank you very much, Scoundrel. And just like Doom, Joey Skax is one of those players that is an AD carry enjoyer. We know how incredibly good he's on those AD carries, although he hasn't showed it yet in competitive because of the meta before. But I feel like now he is. He's going to do it. He's going to pick those AD carries and do a lot of good work. And then I want to talk about Team Dark. And although Team Dark seems like the underdog, right? Like we know Team Dark is the underdogs. It's an incredibly good team, right? And I feel a lot of people are underestimating. I still think Team Queso is going to win, but I think Team Dark is not as much of an underdog as the people may think. This is a very good team. They showed a very good performance before. This is going to be a very interesting game to watch. And then after, the support runs. I still think the support runs are going to be very important in this game. You know, Methonaut showing how good he is at doing that with the Braum, with the Rakan. So yeah, this is going to be a very interesting series, and I feel a very close one. So to get into the series, let's give it back to the casters. Stuart, the next Scoundrel.
Thank you very much, Hells. Yeah, great to hear Hells' perspective coming into this. And I think I'm very interested to see how these two teams as well are adapting to 3.1. That's going to be one of the big talking points, it feels, for me throughout this competition, especially because it has been such a big shift in the meta. Is like who's adapting and who's not. It really felt like Clash didn't quite get the memo in a way. But, you know, you saw that WREC actually did. You know, they really, really shifted things up when it came to how they read those pick and ban phases.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's quite difficult because teams only really had one whole day to prepare for the new patch. They didn't really have a lot of time at all. They had a little bit of time this morning as well before that. But I think we're going to have a quick look at the rosters as well. Most of the people know everyone on the side of Team Queso, you know, Acolyte, Andreas, Veos, Joey Skaggs, and Methanor. On the side of Team Dark, there seems to be a little bit of a switch up in the Baron lane. No Elegi today. Is going to be Kan Yi in the Baron lane with Sync, Chingsi, Mario, and Juicy. And I know Hells spoke a little bit with Joey Skaggs and AD carries, but I think Mario and Juicy as well is another duo lane where they picked these crazy little pocket picks. We've seen Ash and Seraphine from them before, so I think if anyone's going to be adapted to the meta really, really well, it's going to be Team Dark with all these crazy picks they've come up with.
Yeah, I think Team Dark is definitely one of those teams that's not afraid to try things. I think 3.1 has shown us that trying things can work out if you know exactly where you're going with it. Who do you guys think is going to win? Let us know. I think this one's likely going to be a bit more even though Team Queso are going to be a bit of a fan favorite. I think these are two teams that are quite well positioned versus each other. So we could be looking at a pretty intense series, if Queso aren't able to get control of the game and do what WRECs were able to do and adapt to the meta really well. Although I am quite excited to see Joey actually playing champions that he likes to play rather than just Ziggs or Orianna every game. So that might be more beneficial to Team Queso overall and kind of use the bot lane the way that they wanted to use them when they brought them onto the team. Like, I know that they picked up Joey specifically because he is a mechanical god on a lot of AD carries. And we had that interview with him in the WREC main stage, if you remember, where he said, I didn't choose this role to play majors. And, I think that's going to be, very telling. Of course, we're working our way towards picks and bans here. What do you think is going to be a focus for these two teams? Do you see an area of the map that's going to be really important or picks that you maybe want to limit for either team?
I think the substitute is quite interesting. I think if Elegi was in the roster, I think with Darius still being such a strong pick, I think Darius would have been definitely the pickup. I think, across the map, we're still seeing bans for the likes of Fiora, Rakan as well. Ziggs is still getting a ban. Morgana's a very interesting one as well. Morgana's been Joey's most played pick down in the duo lane, even though we want to see him on these AD carries. Morgana is still, available, and she's still quite a really, really strong pick. So be interested to see if Team Queso are going to go down that same route. And obviously with Team Queso as well, we talk about Andreas being the main carry in the jungle, with the likes of, Jack still being really, really strong. Graves as well might be picked up, and Yuumi as well. Probably going to be banned away by Team Dark, but maybe we'll see more carries as well going over to Andreas.
Yeah, let's see. I mean, I think the jungle is primed as well to have a lot of these strong carries played. We know that jungle's got in a good spot right now. Team Queso on blue side, Team Dark on red. Let's see what the first ban of the series is going to be. Of course, blue side bans, you have a bit more flexibility because you have first pick, and it's going to be Jace. Very interesting. Maybe a King C or a Kanyi ban, because it's not something that even saw even a sliver of a mention in the previous series. And I think also Jace, not one of those champions that you traditionally associate with the strong power picks like Divine Sunderer.
Yeah, Divine Sunderer and Hullbreaker, not really Jace picks, to be fair. And I think he does a lot better when he's grouped together with his team, with his shot blast acceleration gate. But like you said, maybe it's a pick that they just want to get rid of because they don't really want to deal with it. Olaf, no surprise, being banned away from by Team Dark, for Team Queso because of Andres. Ziggs being banned away as well. Again, pretty standard bans at the moment. Maybe you might see a Fiora ban and a Yuumi ban. I would probably predict on the side of Team Dark, just to take that away from Team Queso. So it's going to be interesting to see what these teams prioritize. Obviously, it's only the second series of the new patch. These teams would have only had like 1.5 days to prepare and scrim for all these new changes and all this new meta as well. Gragas, another one that's still getting high priority because he didn't really get changed at all in the new patch. So we're still seeing mostly the same bans as what we saw last week in the previous patch.
Yeah, these are not new bans right here. I mean, Olaf has been banned pretty significantly, a lot. And I also think Olaf is really good with the new Death Dance. A lot of people have been saying the new Death Dance works really well with Olaf right now. So I think that makes a lot of sense that we're seeing Olaf being prioritized as the ban still. Xin Zhao is interesting. He did get some light buffs, especially to his late game power on the previous patch. And he's also a Divine Sunderer user. Like, he's a very, very good Divine Sunderer user. I think it's not something that's talked about a huge amount. So I think, Xin Zhao makes a lot of sense. The Camille comes through, which opens up Fiora for Acolyte should he want it, or even Fiora for Andre if they want to pick that up.
Yeah, Fiora open and Yuumi's open as well. So that's two picks that we've seen Team Queso pick already, but it's the Jack straight away. And now I feel like Team Dark, you have to pick Yuumi here. You either have to pick Yuumi or you're just going to give it over to Team Queso, because I think Team Queso is going to go for this Jax and Yuumi combo. We've seen it before where Mephinos played Yuumi with Olaf on Andreas before. Obviously, that's banned away this time. But now the first pick, Jax, opens up that opportunity for Yuumi. And now we have to see. But Xin Zhao's a very interesting one. Oh, interesting enough, they prioritize the Rakan instead. I mean, still really, really strong pick overall. Great teamfight champion. And Corki as well. Still seeing a lot of play, even though the kind of changes to Solari Charge Blade doesn't really benefit him too much in the early game, but maybe going for more Essence Reaver crit build instead of going for Manamune. But very, very interesting priority by Team Dark. Oh,
Lulu. So not going to be a Yuumi pickup, but Lulu obviously works well with Jax. It's interesting that maybe we see a Lulu Vayne or a Lulu Jinx for Joey. Okay, that's very interesting. I don't think on-hit Varus is still a thing in Wild Rift, so we're probably looking at just the traditional kind of lethality Varus in this sense, and the long-range poke, the control and team fights. The Lulu probably there more so for the Jax here for Andre probably, or Acolyte maybe.
Yeah, I think he's just buffing up the Jax for sure, like you said. I mean, interesting enough, they didn't go for Yuumi. Graves being picked up again. We saw random in the previous game. He actually put out a tweet as well, which is one of his games where he was like 20 kills or something when he was playing Baron Lane and Graves. So I think definitely a really, really strong pick at the moment that works really well with Black Cleaver, Hullbreaker, all these new items as well that are coming in. But yeah, Varus is an interesting one. You don't really see it paired a lot with Lulu. And like you said, on-hit Varus still really not a thing because Rage Blade, Lethal Tempo and things like that are not in the game. So it'd probably be Poke Varus with the Manamune Ghost Blade and everything as well, which in my opinion is still a really, really strong build. Serrator's Grudge is still a great item. Ghost Blade got nerfed a little bit in terms of the movement speed, but other than that, the Varus build is completely fine.
Yeah, Varus still, I think, functions really well as an AD carry in general. And obviously, still provides a huge amount of presence in teamfight situations. Like his ultimate is on like a 2-second cooldown, so he could just like spam chains of corruptions every single time. Fiora gets banned, Morgana gets banned away here, interestingly enough. The Yumi also banned, which makes me think that this could be like a weird Vejos Lulu mid situation. I'm not, it's something that has been played. I've mostly seen it as part of what we call the Yi boosting strat, which is where you would have like Master Yi jungle and you'd have Lulu mid. They actually made some specific changes in the last patch to stop that being a thing, because if you have Smite, you get less gold and experience from lane minions for a little longer into the game. The Orianna does come through though. One would imagine that you have that flexibility between Corki and Orianna, between mid and bot lane, but Corki generally tends to sit more in the bot lane these days. And it means the final pickup is likely going to be jungle here for Team Dark, unless they are going to be playing Graves jungle, who did get a recent buff on the last patch.
Yeah, Graves to get the buff to his first ability that deals, I think it's 150% damage now to to monsters. Akali being picked up by Team Queso, so yeah, maybe leaving that flexibility of Orianna and Corki, seeing what the mid lane matchup is and seeing what they prefer. So this looks like it's probably going to be a mid lane Akali, most likely for Vejos. Acolyte is not really a Jax pick. It's going to honestly be Jax Baron lane as well, and maybe potentially be a jungle pick here for Team Queso. There's still that flexibility. Yeah, Lee Sin is still up and available, which is Andrea's pick as well. It's going to be interesting to see if it's going to be. It's going to be Renekton, so it's going to be Jax jungle, Renekton in the Baron lane, which if I know Renekton, he's not really a Divine Sunderer user. You can play
Divine Sunderer Renekton, but it's not the best. Because you just your skill cooldowns are just too long to really get huge effectiveness out of Divine Sunderer. That's the problem with anybody that wants to use Divine Sunderer is the more you play it, the more efficient it gets. So yeah, I'm being told. Well, I'm not. I think we've actually been told it is Elegy playing. So it's maybe the overlay is just wrong here. So we'll probably see Elegy when we get into game. But regardless, that is Set coming in through as well. You actually heard Mozilla talk about it in the last interview. He's like, those champions that are more health stackers, they don't do too well in Divine Sunderer meta. And obviously the Set is one of those. I think Set isn't the worst Divine Sunderer user in the world, mainly because his first ability is on a relatively low cooldown. But again, these are two champions that you wouldn't traditionally associate with Divine Sunderer.
Yeah, I can totally agree with you. So we might be seeing like Blade of Rune King, Black Cleaver for both of these champions in the Baron lane, which is still really, really strong overall. I mean, Black Cleaver got nerfed a little bit. The ability haste, it lost, I think it was 5 overall. Yeah, exactly. So it doesn't really make too much. It doesn't really make too much of a difference. It's still a really, really cheap item. You can see they're still being built as first items as well. But a very, very interesting game. We're still seeing we're still seeing Varus. We're still seeing that potential of maybe Corki duo lane or even Orianna duo lane as well. So not really any interesting picks, I would say. I think it's quite interesting to see Jax being such a high priority, but it doesn't really surprise me in any way because that's kind of Team Queso's playstyle. You're going to see Andreas playing on this Jax in the jungle, and he'll probably go into maybe a split push situation as well, probably Divine Sunderer, maybe a Hold Breaker later on. But as a jungler, most of the time, you don't really build Hold Breaker unless you're going for that strategy. Yeah,
and I think, junglers in general, they need to be there for objectives. They need to be around those objective fights where they can be. And so therefore, if you're taking your jungler to a side lane, you have to be damn sure that you're going to get something from it, because it obviously reduces the ability for you to kind of be active in those objective fights, which are so important, especially when it comes to things like the Rift Heralds these days, and even just when we get close to things like the Baron as well.
Yeah, I can totally agree. There's a few things I want to catch up on actually with the builds, with the summoner spells actually. Mario, interesting enough, taking heal. Now, the heal did get changed in this patch. Now it's more of a really a supportive summoner spell.
Yeah.
If you don't know, is that the heal actually heals the most wounded nearby ally actually more than yourself. So interesting enough, like a carry like Orianna is picking up heal in this situation. I think Exhaust is kind of the go-to now on duo lane carries, especially because of the kind of buffs that Exhaust got as well, just making it that decay in movement speed instead of being 20% reduction movement speed over time. You can see that Joey actually picking up Exhaust and Methanol picking up heal, which I think is the best combo at the moment in the duo lane. But interesting, maybe Mera's going to be playing more of a supportive style Orianna build, probably still the same build, but maybe doesn't want to focus on himself staying alive, but maybe the rest of his team.
Oh, some aggressive play around this River Scuttler coming through here. You can already see that 2-1 has been taken down very low. One mid gets taken low, 2, and now Sync forced back to his own turret. That's a flash. Team Queso brute forcing their way onto this bottom river scuttler, and they'll get away with it too.
Yeah, both flashes being burned away from Corki and Graves. So even though Corki will still be completely fine, I feel like in the laning phase, because he'll be able to Valkyrie away. Corki, interesting enough, going for Ignite as well. So Ignite's another summoner spell. There's plenty of summoner spells that got changed. Ignite is more of a early game, I would say, summoner spell now. It doesn't scale as well, and it doesn't do as much damage now in the mid and late game, but it does a lot of damage in the early game now. It received a really, really huge buff. So maybe going to try and look for the early game trades against Veos, but now with Flash down and with Veos on the Akali, especially when Akali hits level 5 as well, I think one mid's definitely going to have to play a lot safer.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I also want to touch on that heal discussion that you were kind of alluding to. That's an interesting one for me, because I think when you've got a support like, Rakan, who's more than likely going to be the one that absorbs the damage, I can kind of see the thinking that, you as an Orianna stay back and you use the heal because it's going to have the effect on Rakan, which kind of makes sense if you're having Rakan absorb the damage. But obviously it's just a little riskier. Like, it's a bit of a riskier way of playing it. And like you said, the exhaust is a little bit more, I would say, tangible all round. Or even I know Barrier got nerfed in a couple of patches ago. Even Barrier, just provides you a little bit more stability. But I kind of understand it, especially if you want to have an aggressive support. Like, you wouldn't really see a Leona pick heal in a kill lane, right? You still want her to go Ignite. So it kind of makes sense that if you're having a Leona go in, you kind of want to provide her with that extra heal support in the middle of a fight. So I do kind of understand it from that perspective.
That's a really good point, actually. And we see Rakan dashing in.
Yeah, he's going for it. One mid gets taken down low. Vejos actually flashes away to make sure he doesn't get locked up by an ultimate. It's gonna be first blood going to 201. I did not expect that. Got a little caught off guard myself. And Andre now getting taken down by Sync. Low HP, but he's gonna go for the counter strike, call an ambulance, but not for me. But actually for me in the end. Actually 201 manages to get out of it with that tower shot not quite finishing him off.
Yeah, the meme nearly worked out. It nearly worked, but
it almost worked.
Unfortunately for Andreas, he does fall down in the end. I think looking at the build as well, it looks like Andreas is going for Trinity Force, so doesn't really want to go for the tankier Divine Sunderer build. I think because he'll have the Lulu there to provide him with shield, more attack speed as well. So interesting enough that, I think this is a great thing about the items like Divine Sunderer and Hullbreaker coming in, is like these bruisers now have more diversity with their builds, and now you can kind of adapt to, depending on the situation of the game. Death Stance is more of a armor item now. As we look back at the replay, really nice knock-up to actually predict a dash by Veos. But Veos jumping back in as well. It was actually one mid that got caught out. You can see the damage already by Andreas in the early game. Uses the flash as well. Tried to escape. I feel like he could have escaped if he just kept on running backwards here, but he wanted to try and go back in to try and make the little outplay, but unfortunately does get taken down by Sync because there's a dragon fight.
Yeah, Andre goes in trying to get onto one mid for the time being. He's getting taken down very low, 3 versus 1, tries to smite himself down, but he will drop. Vejos is in the pit though, has got that executing ability, and he's now 1 versus 3. Huge damage coming out into Sync. Does have the support of Orianna on the Mario right now, and Elegy tries to flash Facebreaker this. It is Team Dark that come away with the dragon, but Team Queso come away with a few more kills.
Yeah, Team Queso picking up a few kills, and the important thing is that it's on Veos as well. Veos is going to be that late game carry for Team Queso with how much execution you could do as well. And especially when you're against, champions like Graves, like Corki, like Orianna, you want an assassin like Akali to be able to dive onto the backline. Already has a Lich Bane completed, probably going to go for, the Death Camp most likely as the second item. Graves, interesting enough, going with Bloodthirster first instead of Black Cleaver. So a bit different to Random's build, but it still causes, it's still the same purpose in a way. You still be able to just deal a ton of damage with the crits from Bloodthirst and also the Black Cleaver as well, helping out a lot. I don't know about you, Xiangel. I don't know what item 207 is going for, Juicy's going for. I don't know what the components build into.
Is that Hextech Mega Drive?
I was thinking the same thing as well. I think if I remember, there was a player, I think it might have been Juicy as well, that just went Protobelt. As I say that, getting caught out.
It's nice flash from Andre. He's again 1v3, but picks up the kill, this time onto the Orianna. Now trying to go further with this, as he pushes forward with that Lulu ultimate for the time being. Elegy on the back line has got a beautiful amount of HP stored up, but Acolyte flashes out of the Haymaker. And in the meantime, the only person I think on Team Queso that is strong enough right now to fight is Vejos, who's in the bottom side of the map, not involved in that fight whatsoever.
Yeah, in the end, Team Queso just taking it as a distraction point, really. Andreas and Acolyte playing really, really aggressive, and you can see the Lulu ultimate on top of Andreas as well, how he's able to tank so much damage. But Sync, though, 3-0 on this Graves. He's been able to kite back. He's been able to, play safe, and you can see that Sync in this fight as well. Even though he did get caught, he was able to use his dash and everything to kite away. And you can see that, with all of his dashes that he has available, and with Juicy's 201 by his side, he's able to pick up a few kills. And now, 3-0 on this Graves. We've already seen how strong Graves can be, not in the Baron lane this time, but even in the jungle, especially with the buff now, so he's able to play through jungle that little bit quicker. But this Corki mid lane, one mid, has not been doing too well on the other hand, so I feel like they kind of got all their hands in the Sync basket at the moment with 3 kills. So we'll have to see if they can pull that out. But now Team Queso looking to try and get a catch here around the Rift Herald. The second Rift Herald has spawned. The Dragon's not up just yet, so you can see both teams hovering around this Rift Herald. Nothing too crazy yet.
This is still the first Rift Herald, right? I actually don't think anyone's taken Rift Herald yet.
Maybe you're right.
Yeah, I think this is the first Rift Herald. I think legitimately they just haven't got around to fighting for it yet, and that's Acolyte taken down very low. That is a huge suplex into the middle of the fight. Massive HP built up by Elegy there with a massive haymaker as well. You can see the Vejos now caught in the middle of no man's land, actually takes down the Corki for the time being, as Andre is buying time on the front line. It is a bit of a risky fight now for Team Queso, though. They are low HP all round, but it is 1-0 overall.
So Team Dark pick up the Rift Herald, I believe, in the end. I think the Syncs' hands are purple, so I think he did pick up the Rift Herald in the end. So even though Team Queso are kind of coming out on top in these fights, it is Team Dark that are focusing the objectives and actually picking up the objectives as well. So first Dragon and first Rift Herald. Sorry for that mistake. It's that point of the game I was like, okay, second Rift Herald now, it's all good. But I guess both teams didn't really want to focus at all on the Rift Herald, which is quite interesting. But now with the second Dragon coming up in 10, the second is going to be the Mountain Dragon. So the Scuttle Crab going over to Team Dark, they're going to look to try and get that vision control around the Dragon. And we talk about, Andreas being the main carrier at the moment. He's trying his hardest, but I feel like he's struggling quite a lot, especially against his Graves as well, with the likes of Smokescreen and also Rakan as well. It's quite difficult for Rakan to actually jump in and engage onto a team comp like this.
Team Queso as well, just trying to, they haven't really got a huge amount of side lane threat though here. The Vejos gets locked up. We'll have to bop that smoke screen immediately, but actually dives back in, takes down the Corki, flashes away for the time being as well. That was Vejos making a sexy little play. Elegy will drop as well, trying to make some kind of retreat. I think the Redemption might pick him up. It will go the way of Methanaut, and Joey just trying to batter people away with those long range arrows. Might end up losing mid lane tower for this. They got a little bit outmaneuvered, but nonetheless, I think, you'll take that with that first tower of the game already having gone the way of Team Queso. They'll pick up the second Dragon.
Yeah, I feel like there's just trades happening across the map at the moment. It was Team Dark that actually tried to get the pick off on Vejos, but Vejos, with being how slippery he can be on the Akali with all the dashes, actually goes back in as well. I think he's running Triumph as well, because I think he got a little bit of healing, but he's going in 3 versus 1 as well.
He is using the smoke screen to buy some time. Knows he has the backup of that honey fruit. Looks like in the meantime, though, a little bit too much in the mid lane as Joey drops down with that Chains of Corruption. And that'll allow them to pick up a kill onto the Graves. It looks like, I think Acolyte and Andre maybe got a little bit over antsy for that mid lane tier 1. And I believe it might look like Acolyte sacrificed himself to take down the tier 1 mid, which I think is very fair.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. I think you want to try and take down that tier 1 mid lane tower because your one's also gone down at the same time. So now both these carries as well, as we look back at this play, it was just, Acolyte just stepping up a little bit too far. And you can see that Corki still can do a lot of damage, but whilst Acolyte is the distraction, Andreas is able to take the tower and jump away really easily. So again, trades across the map. It's Team Queso that are looking to look to defend the Baron lane tower. They did in the end as well. They got a few kills, and then the mid lane is taken down. Team Queso was able to take down the mid tower, and you can kind of see with that with the goal difference as well. Even though Team Queso do have a bit of a kill lead, they also have a tower lead as well. The goal difference is actually not really as high as what maybe you would think.
No, I think a lot of that is because Sync has been performing so well on this Graves. You can see the value of the pick, especially in the jungle. His clear speed's much quicker. I think people are starting to see Graves shift his way back into the meta right now. And so Sync as well, looking in a good spot. You can see the Rabadon's Death Cap and Stasis has been finished up for Vejos, though. He's 10k gold, the most gold in the game right now. Looking really, really strong. Andre, though, tries to find his way into the fight. Again, once more, face checking into that Rakan, who's already popped that quickness to try and buy some time. Acolyte now zoning away with his own ultimate Dominus. As you can see, the Sting goes in and the counter-strike comes through. He actually uses the stasis immediately. Vejos in the backline trying to find some kind of execute. He's suplexed out of the fight. They don't want him anywhere near that backline. And Energy by himself just crushing that backline of Team Queso. Joey trying to buy time here right next to the entire team. Great stasis. Can he survive? There's a double stun coming up on Andre. He's going to try and take down. He might drop to the red buff. He's so low. He does. And now Mario goes down too. Red buff MVP. Andre picks them up, and that is a Team Queso ace.
Team Dark threw everything at Team Queso there. They were trying so hard because Team Queso honestly felt like they overextended a little bit with Andreas jumping in. I see Elegy try so hard to knock Vejos away, but they weren't able to finish off Team Queso. And as Andreas is scaling up, as he's stacking the passive as well, and you can see it back in this fight as well. Elegy on the side, he was looking to try and make a play, tried to flash in and maybe suplex Joey, but unfortunately wasn't. Because see how overextended Team Dark is. Elegy tries so hard to try and get Vejos really away from the team. The shockwave lands as well, but the damage is just not there for Team Dark. You can see Joey, brilliant time stasis here to deny the knockup, and Andreas as well, flashing forward with the counter-strike as well, dodging all the auto attacks. You can see red buff, kill, red buff, another kill, and a quadra kill for Andreas.
And speaking of Andreas, he actually has to pop that stasis in his own right, has that ultimate still going, actually bounces out over to Methanor. Methanor played that super nicely. I know, literally got him out. Joey Skaggs now forced to pop the Chains of Corruption, and it will buy enough time. In the meantime, Vejos just chilling in the side lane. Another tower goes his way. You can see that I think Team Dark are really looking for Elegy. Oh my god, Elegy now. Oh, beautifully timed from Vejos. Doesn't quite find it, but will use the second charge of his ultimate. As you can see now, Acolyte trying to get into the fight. They're trying to force a 4v4 while Vejos knocks on the door of those inhibitor towers. Andre is unstoppable with that Lulu. And the counter-strike comes through again. Knockup is there. He bounces back out over the head of Joey onto Methanor to keep himself alive. And Vejos picks up an inhibitor tower at the same time. Team Queso have woken up and they're making things happen.
Beautiful 1v1 there by Vejos. You can see 8, 1, and 2. 14,000 gold. So much gold for Vejos. You can see with the Lich Bane as well, he's able to take towers so quickly. He can just keep spamming his abilities, use his smoke screen as well to give him more energy so he can use his abilities, and then auto attack in between. And that means his auto attacks are empowered. That means he's able to take the towers very quickly. You can see how much burst damage as well you get for against Elegy, because Elegy is not really going for a tank build. He's going in again.
He's going in again right now. 1 versus 2. Vejos has got a lot of damage. Oh, 6 just dead. Just absolutely evaporated. And Vejos finds 2 like they were never even there.
Absolutely deleted off the face of the map, and Vejos has come here to play today. We were talking about Andreas being the main carry for Team Queso, but Vejos is like, let me show you my Akali, and he's going in again!
Disgusting! Oh, it's a double kill for Vejos. He wants more though. There's the shockwave, doesn't quite land on Vejos. You can see the Acolyte just trying to set his teammate up for success here. Can't quite do it as the Baron drops to a 3-man squad. There we go. There's the stun. Straight in. Oh my god, what on earth was that HP? Vejos is doing disgusting damage right now.
He has 4 items already. The Infinity Orb as well means he can crit, and he's just doing crazy damage. Like I said, I think he's running Triumph as well, because I think he's actually healing the whole time. We have to see back at the replay, great stasis timing to deny the knockup by Juicy, but you can see he just uses his first ability, uses passive, and boom, the ultimate, the execute. And you can see the extra healing, which means that even though you can get the healing from Triumph, but that also means that you deal more damage to enemies when they're below 35% health. And already, Akali has crazy execute damage with her ultimate, and you can see that he's just able to one-shot, and just absolutely disgusting. And Acolyte could be in a bit of trouble, but Vejos is here.
Acolyte got his ultimate, no he doesn't, but Vejos is here to back him up. Legendary on him. Unbelievable amounts of damage just with that empowered basic attack. Oh my god! What am I watching? The guy's HP just disappeared. Oh, the rest of Team Queso cleaned things up. That was the most disgusting thing I have ever seen in Wild Rift. And Team Queso take the win here. First game of the series. Team Dark definitely looked competitive, though, over the first few minutes of this game. It was only when Vejos got a little more unleashed, only when Vejos was given a bit more scope to do what he does best, was it that Team Queso were kind of really able to wrestle control of this game.
The scaling was there for Team Queso, and my god, Andreas with a quadra kill, Veos just running around the map like it was absolutely nothing. It was just easy for him, I felt like, in the end. And like you said, Team Dark, they were very competitive in the early game. I think they even had a little bit of a gold lead at some point as well in this game. But Veos, he got a few early kills, and with Akali, if you can get a few early kills, if you can get your items, you could just do so much damage with this Akali, because the smoke screen just allows her to turn invisible. You can do a lot of execute damage, as I said, with Triumph as well, dealing even more execute damage. And even though it is the Andreas party with Team Queso, Veos was like, you know what? I'm going to show that I can be the MVP as well. And you can see he's playing so aggressive. He's playing so confidently as well, which is we've seen Veos play champions like Akali before. We can see that he can play with such confidence, and Andreas as well, getting the quadra kill in this situation. Just a great overall mid-game performance by Team Queso.
Yeah, I think Team Queso just played this excellently from start to finish. I think, there was a little bit of a shaky moment in the sort of the past 4 or 5 minutes where they weren't quite playing around those first objectives the way they would have wanted, and they kind of gave a bit too much over to Sync in the jungle. But Veos was able to just pull it back. I want to show you the damage that he's doing right now on this Akali. Absolutely disgusting. Again, Elegy's supposed to be a kind of bruiser tank. Doesn't matter. One basic attack takes away like half of their entire HP. Watch that one mid, just like two abilities and a basic attack, and the guy was dead. That is disgusting how far Veos was able to get himself ahead, and that was obviously the end of the game. And you can see here 14-1 and 3. Andres had a good performance as well, 8-3 and 6. Joey did what he needed to do from the backline, didn't die. Neither did Methanol, and I think Acolyte was there mostly to kind of beef up the front line and set his team up for success. But it was the Veos party from start to finish here. 17, almost 18k gold in the bag with 33k damage dealt this game. The man was on fire.
He was on fire, and even though there wasn't really a lot happening in the duo lane, and we didn't really talk much about Joey and Methanol, they did their job at the end of the day. And you can see that when it got to the mid lane, they were able to accelerate their gold lead with the scaling comp that they have, with Jax getting a few items, Veos getting a few items on the Akali as well. And then Joey was just sitting in the back line with Methanol, using the crowd control, using the poke to be able to just deal a lot of damage. And Methanol as well didn't die throughout the single game, but used that wild growth to perfection, just keeping his team alive. And like you said, Acolyte didn't really do too much, but he was that frontline tank for the team that they needed, which allowed Veos to run around and deal just disgusting amount of damage. 33,000 damage in that short amount of game. It should be illegal.
Feels like when I watched it, it should have been illegal. Let's take a look at the play of the game here, see what really stood out for Team Queso as a moment that kind of influenced the overall impact of the game. And yeah, I think this is the right call. This is a really cool team fight.
Yeah, I agree that this is definitely the play of the game. You can see Elegy trying so hard to kind of zone Veos away. And this is really the fight that Veos didn't really do too much, but instead it was Andreas. Then it was Joey and Methanol, which I said didn't really do too much, but they were able to just use that poke, use all of their abilities and the shields and the healing as well. And red buff MVP indeed. Look at that quadra kill for Andreas. And 2 of them kills were by red buff as well. So Jax seeing a lot of gameplay. Graves also seeing a lot of gameplay as well. First Akali we've seen today, so just shows that some of these teams have a bit more, flexibility. We've seen a lot more unique picks than what we saw in the WREC main event.
Yeah, it's really great to see. And I think Team Queso will be happy with this start. Maybe not as dominant as WREC, from start to finish, but definitely super strong. Great showing, especially from the mid lane. And they played the game the way they needed to. And that, of course, means that we have another game coming up shortly in this series. I wonder, Stu, will Team Dark be able to bounce back? Or are Team Queso going to 2-0 this and find themselves into the next stage of the tournament? We will have to see. Short break. We'll see you back soon.
Frozen over, stuck in time, out of breath in my mind. Is this how it will be when you promise this, you and me? Could it be us? Could it be us till forever? Till forever, forever us? Could it be us? Could it be us till forever? Till forever? Say you'll be mine. Say that you will, say that you will. Say you'll be mine. Say that you will, say that you will. You will always be the deepest part of me. Heavy hearts healed in time, memories stuck in mine. Never believed I'd start again, that our search was at its end. Could it be us? Could it be us till forever? Till forever? Say you'll be mine. Say that you will, say that you will. Say you'll be mine. Say that you will, say that you will. You'll always be a part of me. Till forever. You'll always be a part of me. Say you'll be mine. Say that you will, say that you will. Say that you will. Could it be us? Could it be us till forever? Till forever, forever.
You ready?
Welcome back, everybody, to the WREC Last Chance Qualifiers playoffs. Mixed Scoundrel joined by Stu, and we saw Team Queso firing on all of their cylinders, just like we saw from WREC. It was a great performance from them. Confidence-building performance, which I think is really important in this very crucial stage of the tournament. And of course, they just now are one game away from putting Team Dark into the lower bracket. Stu, big takeaways. Felt like it was obviously Vejos, but in general, Team Queso looked like they were doing what they needed to do across the board.
Yeah, I can completely agree with you. Even though the early game was a little bit shaky, but I think when it got to the mid game and when their carries, Andreas and Feos, did get ahead, they're able to control the team fights a lot better. And Team Dark found it really, really hard to actually get on top of the back line, get on top of Veos, get on top of Andreas and these carries. And they're going to have to try and pull off something a bit crazy, which they've done before. They've picked up some crazy pocket picks before, Team Dark. That's what I want to see again from them.
Absolutely. Now, let's see. I think, obviously, our resident analyst sitting on the sidelines here, our boy Hell's Devil, was watching that first game and has some thoughts about how things can play out in the second.
That's right, Xcano. I have some key points to make. So I want to say Team Dark had a strong late game composition. They had a strong late game composition. They were doing very well in the early game. And if they got to that late game with the Orianna and the Graves, they would have been able to dash out a lot of damage and potentially take this series. But it didn't happen. Why did it not happen? Team Queso did an amazing job funneling on the Akali. And what I mean with that is they were funneling a lot of golden experience on the Akali, not in a way, not in the traditional way, but more as letting Akali split push, right? We heard Stuart say it with the Lich Bane. She was able to push out 3 turrets in the bot lane, which got her a lot of gold. She was able to catch out some kills, and then we saw what happened in the late game. She just dominated everyone. And then Andre and Vegos, right? Vegos on the Akali, Andres on the Jax. They had an incredible performance. Absolutely incredible performance. They just hard carried their team. You know, they had the Lulu to buff Andres as well. And then Vegos, right, on the Assassin, on the Mage Assassin. They didn't give a chance to Team Dark in the late game to really do anything. Incredible performance. And it's going to be very interesting to see what they're going to be doing in the next series. So back to Xcano and Stuart to get us into the next game.
Yeah, I mean, I think hit the nail on the head on some of those points there. Very interesting to kind of like think about how that comp could have played out if they played that mid game a little bit smoother for Team Dark. But of course, Team Dark, we know they have that capability to bring kind of the wild and the crazy to these situations. So I'm kind of excited. This second draft, it might be give a bit of time over to Team Dark to kind of recoup and rethink their thoughts coming into this second draft phase. Team Queso, though, they didn't look like they played anything that was like that they wouldn't have played on the previous patch. It's kind of the way I'd put it. Like, it felt like it was a very standard kind of like pre 3.1 composition for Team Queso. You know, Joey wasn't on these Storm Razor AD carries. We didn't see many Divine Sunderers. There was no Hull Breaker attempts there. Team Queso kind of, I guess, sticking to what has worked for them for the time being.
I think it's quite difficult as well. I think I mentioned before that the first series that these teams only really had like a day and a half to prepare on a new patch. And when you're already comfortable on a champion and on a play style, which Team Queso, you know, we know that they're comfortable on a play style where Methanaut can play these ardent carries. They could put Andreas on a carry like a Jax. And you can see that Jax didn't even go Divine Sunderer. Jax went for Trinity Force because of all the shielding and healing as well. And we've seen Veos pick up Akali before. So I think just playing standard, playing like you said, what they're already comfortable with. One thing I actually want to mention as well with the Veos situation as well, another change that happened in 3.1 was actually the tower gold, how much tower gold you get. You actually get a lot more local gold as well when you're pushing down towers. So like Hel said, funneling all that gold onto Veos. So you don't really get as much global now for the rest of your team when you're taking down towers. But if you're near the tower and if you get that local gold, then that's really where it comes online. It just showed that Veos, most gold in the game as well, a great performance. It'd be interesting to see what Team Dark pick up here to try and come back in the second game.
Absolutely agree. I think, I'm kind of excited because they have some really, really great players on their roster as well. Like Elegy really did make some big plays in the set. You know, I think what's interesting is that you mentioned that the fun thing about Elegy is that actually that he's the kind of guy that would pick up like the Fioras or the Camille's. So maybe there is something that we can see on that front from Elegy this time round. I think, you know, versus Acolyte can do that, but we haven't seen him do that in a long time. Acolyte has kind of been on this like Darius Renekton duty for a little while. You know, the sets, the Renekton's the Darius, and you know, like Acolyte used to be known for like his Camille and his Fiora, and he hasn't had the chance to flex those muscles. Maybe this game, Team Queso give a bit more space to give that a go and attempt that, you know, and try and see what they can do for this 3.1 side of things. And you know, I think for Joey as well, like again, just a very strong all-round competitive AD carry with Varus, but not someone that really benefited a huge amount from 3.1, right?
Yeah, I think Varus's build and everything was pretty much the exact same. Nothing's really changed. Went for Edge of Night, was going for the Serrader's Grudge as well. So nothing's really changed for his build. And I thought when I saw the Lulu as well, I was like, maybe we get to see Joey on that hyper AD carry, like the Vayne, like maybe Jinx as well. What we saw from Dune. Unfortunately, we weren't able to. But maybe this is a game, like you said, maybe this is a game where Team Queso try and find something new because they kind of have that one game now that they can fall back on. Even if they lose this, they can still come back in the third game as well. But I think at the same time, I think both these teams just want comfort champions for themselves because it is a new patch. They don't want to do anything too crazy. And as we mentioned, you know, this is a last chance for these teams to get to Barcelona as well. So you don't really want to be taking any of them huge risks, which is why I think Rix is a kind of a level above all of these teams because they're willing to take that risk. They're really willing to, you know, pick up these champions that we don't really get to see too much. And we finally get into picks and bans for game number 2. Team Dark is going to be on the blue side now, interestingly enough, with Team Queso now on the red side.
Yeah, Team Queso, obviously when you lose, I think you get side selection. So Team Dark has decided that blue side first pick is something that they're aiming for. We're going to see the Lulu ban this time round. Not something that we've seen a huge amount in competitive. And we'll see for a Team Queso as well where they choose to go. Are they going to ban things like the Camille and the Fiora? You know, they want to make sure that maybe Elegy doesn't get a chance to run with those kind of picks.
Yeah, Fiora, Camille, Gragas, I think all of these champions. Interestingly enough, Galio has kind of fallen through completely. We saw Galio being such a high priority last weekend, but now with maybe his changes, I mean, the change wasn't really, in my opinion, too impactful. It was his ultimate, his base damage went down by quite a bit, but the AP ratio went up. But I still feel like Galio as a champion overall is quite interesting. Well, look at these bans by Team Dark. They're like, okay, we know Methanaut loves to play these ardent supports with Andreas was a high carry, so let's just get rid of them completely. And it actually opens up so many things because Jace has also been banned away by Team Queso. So maybe Team Dark going for a strategy, whereas like you said before, on blue side, you can be a little bit more flexible. So it opens up a lot of first picks, but it also opens a lot of picks for the blue side second and third pick as well, which is maybe what they're going for.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the Olaf ban coming through here as well. They're maybe just trying to say, let's take down what we know Team Queso has been running with, and like you mentioned, and maybe give them some more options about how they want to approach the game. Maybe even think about, well, set ban's an interesting one. I wasn't expecting that to be a ban. That means there's now like Camille, there's Fiora, there's Ziggs, there's like quite a lot of stuff that we would consider relatively powerful right now, and that is still open for Team Dark as their first pick. But I guess with Team Queso, like Ziggs bans, but if Team Dark pick one, then Team Queso obviously have the option of 2 strong picks with so many things left open right now.
Yeah, that's a strong part about Red Side, is that even though you do get that first pick priority, which is going to be the Camille, most likely for Elegi, but could maybe be played in the jungle as well, but most likely see it on the hands of Elegi. But now you get 2 for the side of Team Queso, like you said. Morgana's still up and available, Jax is again up and available, and it will be priority again for Team Queso on the Jax. Not going to have that ardent support this time unless Methodor maybe goes for like a Nami. That's really the only other one. And Varus again being such a high priority as well for Team Queso. So again, not taking any risks, just playing what they're comfortable with and trying to go down that route.
Going to see the Gragas coming out. That was banned in the previous game as well. So some power picks going in the hand of Team Dark. As you mentioned, though, Team Queso are just going to stick to what works. Maybe they think that actually, screw this 3.1 meta. Like, this stuff is just good. Like, the stuff that we're picking is just good. So who cares about 3.1? Whereas Team Dark, I think this is you're going to see. I think a really strong comp being built out by Team Dark right now. Like that. Like I think Morgana's great into Jax. I think Morgana's great into Varus. Like with the right target for the Black Shield, you're really limiting some of that power potential. So, I think that's a really, really strong opening draft here for Team Dark.
I think the interesting thing as well is the flexibility of Team Dark comp as well. We saw SC7 today play Morgana jungle. We've seen Morgana mid lane and Morgana duo lane. Also the Gragas as well can be played in the mid lane, can also be played in the jungle as well. Acolyte going back to his Darius. We've seen what he done at the Horizon Cup before. We see what he done at the Origin Series last year. Just a champion that he's so comfortable with, and he can play very well. So they're looking for a bit of AP damage now, Team Queso. I wouldn't be surprised if Team Queso Team Dark ban away that Akali. I think after that previous game, you just don't want to deal with that AP threat again of the Akali, especially because you're going for, again, a bit more of a squishier comp. Gragas is most likely going to build full AP, Morgana as well, and Camille, even with the Divine Sundra, can be a little bit squishy.
Yeah, I think also what I'm liking about the Darius as well is that, it kind of circumnavigates the Morgana a little bit. Like, you can just chunk through that shield regardless. And obviously, like, I think that, with strong melee picks being picked up, like Darius is always considered the really strong anti-melee pick. So now if you're looking to build a comp that has a lot of all-in potential, a lot of melee picks, Darius is already putting a stopper on that and saying not really going to happen as easily. And plus, it's an absolute power pick for Acolyte. Like, it's one of his best picks. So, however, it's pretty terrible into Camille. I think most people who are at the high-level matchups between Darius and Camille would say Camille generally has the edge in that matchup, just because of the shield and the way that it blocks the bleed damage from Darius. And she can take really short trades with hook shots. So, like, it is a very difficult matchup for Darius, but, Acolyte will very likely know how to play the best of his ability.
Yeah, interesting enough, Team Queso actually ban out supports themselves, and also there's a lot of supports banning away, but Rakan is still open. I was about to mention this, you're banning away Braum, Galio, and Thresh, but you've completely forgotten about Rakan. I still feel like Rakan is still up there as one of the best supports with, maybe, with the Hextech Mega Drive change as well, could be a pickup for Methodor on Rakan, but a great team fight. And you can see the Team Queso is really starting to get this great team fight comp going with the Rakan, with the Darius, and all the Xin Zhao pick. Now, I was going to mention this a little bit in the previous game, but we didn't really have enough time. The Xin Zhao ban came through. Xin Zhao is a very interesting one because, like you said, does work really well with Divine Sundra, does work really well with Black Cleaver as well, and did receive the buff. And I'll be honest, I played solo queue yesterday against the Xin Zhao, and my health just got evaporated completely. So I'm not really surprised to see a Xin Zhao. It will be interesting. It does work pretty well against Darius. It does work well against Xin Zhao and even Rakan as well, because he can knock the champions away, and also with Janna as well. So Janna Morgana duo lane, it's really interesting comp. And Akali again, I mentioned it, if you don't ban it, Veos is just going to pick it up again.
Yeah, and I think that Veil's very happy to win this comp, saying, well, I think, I think Akali's quite solid to Xin Zhao as well, because you can just get in there and be inside that ultimate, and you can deal the damage with the execute where you can. The only thing that makes Xin Zhao annoying is that you can't deal damage to him, like, if you're not inside that circle, and that's what makes Xin Zhao like faux tanky to an extent. If you can get inside that circle, he melts like butter most of the time. So, I think that's a nice pickup here for Vejos. Very interesting draft coming out from Team Dark. The addition of the Xin Zhao definitely sharpens things up. They are running a very non-interactive bot lane, the Morgana Janna. It's like super uninteractive. I'm not expecting much to happen there. So you're really looking at maybe like a split push win condition, or you're looking at like utilizing the Xin Zhao as like a driving force in the mid game to kind of get yourself ahead here. Whereas Team Queso, basically the same comp, realistically,
Yeah, it's pretty much the exact same comp. Nothing really too crazy, happening for Team Queso. They're not going for these crazy picks like the Xin Zhao, like Janna, which we don't really see too much as well. But you can see that Team Dark sort of play style is kind of all about disengage. You got the Janna for disengage, you got the Xin Zhao for disengage. They do have a little bit of engage as well with the Camille, and also Xin Zhao can jump in. So it's going to be interesting to see if Team Dark can come out on top, or if Team Queso will get our second 2-0 of the day.
Yeah, I think Team Queso looking strong. They've definitely drafted a comp that they're comfortable with, but big shift coming out from Team Dark in this matchup. Let's see how this plays out. You can see they're trying to catch out Acolyte, forced to flash very early on here. And that's not a good look for Acolyte in the lane.
Both duo laners, Mario and Juicy, 201 is just not in duo lane at all. You see Methanol was even up here as well, so maybe realizing what could be the plan here for Team Dark, and you can see that they're still playing really aggressive. Interesting enough, Sync is actually taking the golems away. Yeah, the golems away, but Methanol's up here as well. One mid also roamed, and they're just going to take this entire red side of their jungle.
Yeah, they're trying to go for a very aggressive invade onto the Jax here, because the Xin Zhao kind of can do that, especially with the support he had. They've sacrificed so much experience on 201, but then, to be honest with you, so has Methanol. Methanol has run around like a headless chicken and done absolutely nothing. So, yeah, I think that's a good start. It's a full red side clear on the Jax's red side jungle, which is going to be very difficult to come back from, especially because, 201 is ensuring that priority stays put in the mid lane to allow for as kind of an easy way for Sync to get into his own red side jungle. You can see Methanol has now head down towards the bot lane. I actually think Jax could, or rather we could see Andres maybe go towards that red side jungle, because you can see that Joey and Methanol have got control there. But it will just be going for the River Scuttler for the time being.
This is a really interesting play by Team Dark. Juicy still roaming around on this Janna, pretty much playing, I guess you could say, River Shen in a way, but it's actually River Janna. Obviously, Shen not being available and Karma not being available as the two new champions. But you can see that Acolyte was able to get there and take all that experience and that gold. But now it looks like Andreas is going to try and go into the red side jungle, but you can see Sync and 201 roaming up as well. And they're going to try and catch out Andreas, and he can't take this. With the roam as well from the Janna and everything, Xin Zhao is just able to take this red buff for himself as well.
Yeah, absolutely. But there is a level 201 right now. So it hasn't actually, I wouldn't say it's like resulted in a massive net gain, because you are right now still equal as Andre, and you should be able to kind of keep yourself relatively in the game. Of course, that will change once the blue side clear comes out from Sync. Just about how you convert this for Sync on the Xin Zhao this time round.
Yeah, he's going to be looking to farm up his whole jungle now. He's going to go to the red buff. He's going to go over to the Raptors, go over to the Wolves, and also the blue buff. You can see that Juicy, the 2-1 on Janna. He's just not in. He started the blue buff. What is?
He's literally playing like River Janna. And it's just like, the sad thing is he isn't that far behind Methanol, because Methanol ran around like an absolute headless chicken for the first like 1.5 minutes of the game.
But both of these supports are just running around the map, like they just completely ignore it. We're basically having a duo lane matchup between Varus and Morgana, sorry, but look, Janna's here again. The shields or tornadoes and everything, and
can't go for a 1v1.
Yeah, exactly. Even though Veos tried to go for the 1v1, Janna was just here, and You can see Methanaut, he was going to go down to the duo lane. Now he's going to roam back up again. And Sync again, playing really, really aggressive, trying to just deny as much farm away as possible. But as you can see by both the levels by Andreas and Sync, there's not a lot of level difference, even though Sync was able to deny so much in the early game.
Yeah, I think even if, you see Andre take this camp, like he will be close to level 6 regardless. So all of this roaming, all of this posturing, almost peacocking, hasn't really resulted in a massive net gain for Sync at this point in time. He's only about 200 or even 150 gold ahead of Andre. So it's not even like he's suddenly come away with a massive gold lead either. And 201 on Juicy is a little behind. He's actually not even level 5 yet. Methanol has actually been able to generate a relatively decent XP advantage here. With the Infernal Drake coming up, let's see what River Janna can do.
Well, let's see what River Janna can do. Again, still not level 5 as well. Look at that. Still got so much long, and Sync's got caught.
Sync's got caught. He actually pops that ultimate straight away. You can see Methanol dives out. Here comes Vejos going back into the fight. That's why he's so good versus this Xin Zhao. Can keep himself engaged, but has to force the flush away because one mid uses that belly bop. The rest of Team Queso not quite strong enough, but they have burnt a Xin Zhao ultimate. He's on a relatively low cooldown though, so should be up by the next time we see a coalescing around this Infernal Dragon.
Yeah, both teams just backing away for now. It looks like Xin Zhao's going to go back, going to get the Black Cleaver. Janna, I'm not too sure if she even can even build an item because she hasn't got any gold or experience at all. And I mean, we spoke a little bit about, I think House briefly spoke about it, where the support roams are going to be really key in this series. And it was a little bit from Mozilla as well, saying that support roams maybe might not be a thing as much because of that XP change, but because you still get so much passive XP, even though the XP changes have changed. You can see that Juicy is still, still need level 6, and I'm pretty sure he hasn't taken any minions at all in the laning phase.
No, he hasn't. We haven't seen an engage coming from Elegy here. Actually, straight onto Andre, who uses that counter-strike for the time being, will go down. Wow. First blood goes the way of Morgana. Vejos may be looking for an angle into the fight here, but can't quite find one. And Team Dark, again, off to a really good start in the game.
Yeah, they get the early game advantage again. They take the first dragon. They take a kill as well. And Team Queso couldn't really get themselves into that fight, to be honest with you. And now they're going to try and look to get the first dragon tower as well, And with no one from Team Queso here, and Team Queso are just late to the party. Team Dark are just rotating around the map as a grouped unit. And you can see here that it was actually Andreas that looked to go forward, but you don't have a Lulu this time, buddy. You can see how quickly he just gets completely deleted, really, to be fair, with all the combo. You can see the Chain of Corruption was able to go just chain across the whole of Team Dark, but Joey just wasn't able to step forward enough. Interesting enough that actually an Acolyte has gone for
Divine Sunder.
Divine Sunder, yeah, but enough about that. There's another fight.
We've got another engage here. Methanol actually forced to flush away. Andre using that to counter-strike, and it will be Vejos that picks up the kill. That's not what you want to see if you are a Team Dark man. You want to see Vejos not getting this much golden experience. He's still going into the fight, pops that ultimate. It's enough to ward them away. Andre, that's a little wild, if I'm completely honest with you. Elegy will be able to force the rest of Team Queso back. I'm not entirely sure I was on the same page as Andre there.
Yeah, Andre playing a little bit too aggressive. Like I said, maybe thinking that he has a Lulu by his side, but unfortunately you don't have a Lulu by your side. And Elegy is in the same situation now. He might just be dead.
Yeah, I think Elegy might drop down here. Uses that Hextech ultimate to buy some time, and Vejos will end up taking the kill. Unfortunately, Juicy could not get enough shields off to allow him that opportunity to escape. However, with Sync heading up towards that top side of the map, they're not going to be able to get that first turret on the top side for Team Queso. And Team Queso just struggling right now to actually kind of get real tangible advantages off the back of some of these skirmishes.
Yeah, I think it's kind of the same. It's similar to last game, really. Whereas both teams are kind of just taking trades in the early game, and no real advantages are happening. But when it got to the mid and late game, that's where we really saw Team Queso able to out-rotate Team Dark and just take the objectives and take the towers and use Vejos as that split push potential, which you can see it is the exact same situation this game. They also can to split push, use that Lich Bane to pretty much delete the towers. And yeah, going back to the point, interestingly enough, the Divine Sunder is being built by Darius. And okay, I thought I wasn't going to be able to talk about it again. But yeah, you don't really see Darius as really a Divine Sunder user, to be honest with you. I still think Black Cleaver is still a great item on him with Dead Man's Play on top of that. But maybe realizing that he is against the matchup, but Vejos has got caught. But he's all good for now, and Andre will back away. But yeah, maybe realizing that he can't really go for this Black Cleaver Death Stance, not Death Stance, sorry, Black Cleaver Dead Man's Plate builds because of Divine Sunderer. Maybe adapted his build because of that.
I think, well, I think Divine Sunderer is not too bad on Darius because he was an okay Trinity Force user beforehand, right? Because you have a relatively low cooldown in your second ability. I actually think Divine Sunderer is better for Darius overall, though I say that Joey has to use the stasis. It's a nice stasis, but the rest of the team is going to lock him down. He won't be able to get away and will get knocked out. Won't quite lose the mid lane tier 1 for the time being, though.
Yeah, they'll be able to, well, they'll be able to push out the lane in the end. They won't be able to take that mid lane tower. It looks like he's going for Dead Man's Plate as the second item, so just more tankiness, really, to be fair. You got quite a lot of health and quite a lot of stats from Divine Sunderer. Your Dead Man's Plate on top of that as well. Looks like potentially we might be seeing a Death Stance by Elegy as a second item. Already seen Death Stance being picked up quite a lot, and against the likes of a Darius, a Jax, and also Varus as well. Not a bad pickup, to be fair. And you might be seeing Xin Zhao doing the exact same thing, maybe after the Divine Sunderer second item.
I think... Oh, wait a second. We have a little bit of a fight here. Elegy gets caught out. Methanol does try to go for the charm, but can't quite find it. As you see a flash in. That's a great exhaust, though, to buy some time. As Joey is being focused down. Elegy's trying to take him down as well. Forced to flash away. They'll trade 1-4 at the end of the day, but now Vejos is here again, churning those kills. And that is another great start. A double kill for Vejos. They're going to try and get more from this with Sync as well on the front line. It's 2 dragons the way of Team Dark, but they have been losing that gold across the map right now.
Yeah, Team Queso able to take that Baron Lane tower. They took the dragon, but to be honest with you, it's Team Queso again, you know, using the team fights to pretty much perfection. And Vejos again on this Akali. I'm still really surprised that Team Dark didn't ban it away. They had the opportunity to ban it away in the second banning phase, but they're like, okay, you can pick up Akali this time. We have a counterplay to it, and the counterplay is the Camille and the Xin Zhao. But unfortunately, you know, the flash in by Mario is really good, but the exhaust was key. And I spoke a little bit about exhaust on AD carries, and that just shows there that it can be really strong on AD carries because you can use it as kind of a way to stop the damage coming out from these main carries they're going to look to try and jump onto. And you can see it worked out wonders there for Joey, even though he did go down. And Akali might be in a little bit of trouble. Good healing though.
Yeah, really good healing, and he's buying some time right now as Elegy actually gets dunked, but doesn't have the stacks to really make it worth it, and he will end up getting away for that scot-free. In the meantime, though, look at Andre. No one's with him. Methanol is buying time at this moment as well, and you can actually see Joey and Vejos making their way over towards that top side of the map. They're trying to allow Andre a bit more time to go for this, as now Vejos picks up the first kill, trying to take out Sync, who's dragged over the wall as well. He's still in the realms of Vejos, and we just mentioned how good Akali is versus Xin Zhao. And Vejos again, a triple kill on the Akali. No one can stop this madman on the Akali, and this is the guy that's bringing Team Queso to victory as he now chases down that mid lane. Another stasis for the time being, dodges away from that barrel. You can see Andre has the counter strike ready to go, and Team Dark are just falling apart at the seams. Another small advantage that Team Queso were able to pry open with the absolute, I don't know what do you call it, like crowbar of Vejos, and they are able to just run away with the game.
Yeah, it feels like it's the first game all over again, to be honest with you, Excountor. It's Team Dark, they were able to stay competitive for the first, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, but they're just overextending really a little bit too much. You can see the overextension here in the Baron lane. They're trying to get this tower, they're trying to get the advantages, but you can see the rotation from Joey and Vejos. Look at the mini-map, both Vejos and Joey being able to rotate up to the Baron side of the map for Team Dark. You can see Vejos is just easily able to just dash around and take out pretty much the whole team of Team Dark. You can see that, yeah, just ban away Akali. Just don't give Vejos Akali. We've seen it 2 games in a row now, and honestly, it might be a little bit too late for Team Dark now. But like you said, they're pretty much falling apart now. And even though they do have, they are staying competitive in this early game, it's just the mid game and the rotations by Team Dark that are just not there.
No, and I think also just Vejos is an absolute predator when it comes to finding his opportunities. Like, he sits and waits and then just finds the perfect time to kind of snowball a game in his favor. And he's done that both games in a row now. And it's meant that he's very difficult to deal with. I can see the Dead Man's Plate Divine Sunderer combo coming out from Acolyte. So a bit tankier, designed to be a bit more sort of a sustaining bruiser. able to dish out and sort of take a bit more damage in that sense as well. A very classic build from Andre, by the way. Look, he's going for the Sterak's Gauge, so nothing changing for him on his Jax play. It's really just the Divine Sunder is the only new addition here for Acolyte, really, compared to what we would have seen from Team Queso pre 3.1 anyway.
Yeah, and interesting enough, the build from Sync as well, he's not actually going to go for Divine Sunder, he's going for a more classic Xin Zhao build as well, just going for Black Cleaver, Sterak's Gauge, which is kind of what we saw before when Xin Zhao wasn't really in the meta. Probably going for Death Stance as that third item. As I said, I think Death Stance is quite a good item here for Team Dark, just being able to get the extra armor, and Sync's looking to go in, and Acolyte could be a bit caught out.
Acolyte could be a little bit caught out here. It's a really great change of corruption coming up from Joey. Joey actually uses the stasis to buy some time. They actually have to keep Vejos out, as Mario had a really good positioning on his ultimate there, and actually trying to lock up Vejos for the time being as one mid takes him down, but it's a killing spree for Acolyte. And then here he goes, a really nice prediction and a great stasis. And Vejos will survive for the time being, but they were so concerned about Vejos this whole fight that the rest of Team Queso were just able to run riot. You could see that everyone was so on edge about where Vejos was. Where was he going to jump in? Which shuriken was he going to go to? That they were so unwilling to commit to the rest of the fight that Team Queso were able to just run away with things.
Yeah, Vejos was just used as a distraction, really, in the backline. And as you said, because you had one mid, you had also Mario and Juicy just on the backline, 201. They were just trying so hard to keep track of Vejos. And because the third ability landed onto one mid, Akali's third ability, it means he was able to dash back in. But a great body slam by one mid, I have to say. An incredible body slam. But in the end, the stasis by Vejos just kept him alive. And like you said, the rest of Team Queso was just able to get into the team fight and just clean up the rest of the fight.
Absolutely. Really brilliant stuff from Team Queso. And again, finding themselves in a very strong position once more. We're going to drop a Rift Herald on the bottom side of the map here. Very long-range Rift Herald from Andre as they look to maybe build a bit of pressure around this Baron now.
Yeah, they're going to try and look to go around this Baron. I think it's quite difficult, really, for Team Dark to really do that much now. They're nearly 10,000 gold behind. They're going to have to try and find something a little bit crazy this game. You can see how far behind Juicy is as well. Level 11 to Acolytes, and then Dre is a level 14. And it just shows as well, which is one of the changes with the XP changes. When you are behind now, it's so hard to get that passive experience to try and get back into the game. And they're going to try and go in. Eliki's going really deep.
He's really going deep. They're trying to isolate out Joey, who's in the backline, still untouched for the time being, has got that ultimate going. They'll take down the Rakan for them at the moment, and it's actually Vejos in the sidelines. It's a complete sweep, realistically, by Team Dark.
Look at the Baron lane, though.
But it is the Baron lane that Vejos is pushing through. With that Rift Herald, you can see that Joey's buying time. The flash comes through as well. He's just trying to stop them from backing at this point, as both Andre and Vejos jump onto the Nexus, and Team Queso, with the help of the Rift Herald, will make their way through the winner's bracket.
Yeah, they will make their way through to the winner's bracket. And again, just distraction. Again, just Team Queso playing the map so much better. And Vejos on that split push. Andreas was just like, okay, I don't need to be in this team fight at all. Let's go down to the duo lane and let's just finish off this game. And they were able to do that as well. And Team Dark, a little bit disappointing by them, I think. I think the way the early game played out in both games, I think they definitely could have been a lot more competitive. But when it got to the mid and the late game, Team Queso just playing the map so much better. They, the first game being able to win the team fights, and even though they felt like they were overextended a little bit, they still got the team fight wins. And in this game as well, again, Vejos on the split push duties on this Akali with the Lich Bane, taking down towers so easily. And there's just no one really that could deal with the Akali. When the Akali gets ahead, who can really deal with it on the side of Team Dark? Who can deal with that split push carry potential of Vejos? There's no one, and I think that's how Team Queso were able to come out on top in the second game.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, and I think overall Team Queso just they were making mistakes. They weren't infallible. I think you compare it to Rix's performance, where Rix really looked clean from every single moment. In that game, there were still things that Team Queso weren't quite getting right. There were still moments where you thought, "Oh, I'm not sure about that in a team fight." Oh, that was a bit of a weird engage, but they were still able to play the map the way it should have been played. And Vejos, as you mentioned, was kind of that shining light. He was just able to kind of find that pressure in the side lane, look for the 1v1s. And I think that was able to kind of push Team Queso through to victory here. Great body slam, by the way, from one mid. But doesn't actually get the kill done, unfortunately, onto Vejos. But regardless, it was just a brute force attempt by Team Queso to keep themselves in this series. And I think just able to kind of outskill them at the end, realistically.
Yep. In the end, Team Queso being able to take up the 2-0 victory. 2-2-0s today, though. So Team Queso and WREC both showing that they could be two of the best teams as well. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they're going to be playing each other in the next round. I could be wrong, but we'll get an updated graphic later, I'm sure, with the bracket. And yeah, you can see the last ditch Nexus defense here by Team Dark, but they weren't able to come out on top. And just across the board, really, we can see 3.1 hasn't really changed too much. I think, like you said already, with Team Queso, they're still picking up champions that they're comfortable with. But I think that's because they haven't really had a lot of practice and maybe a lot of scrim games as well on patch 3.1, because these teams have only had a day and a half to practice on these. But Joey picking up Varus 2 games in a row, Veos picking up Akali, and also Andreas as well on the Jax. Just champions that we know that these players can play. But hopefully in the near future, we'll see some traditional AD carries for Joey, which we mentioned before the game can be something that he can really perform well on.
Well, take a look at the stats. You can see here that one mid, even you can see Gragas is still just about as disgusting as he always was. Even on the losing game, the AP Gragas is still so strong in the right hands. But Vejos finding those great executing blows. A little bit more of a holistic effort from Team Queso this time round to get the win here. And you can see that it was only about that 9-minute mark where they were able to just start making use of Vejos' strength to then catapult themselves into a win just over that 16-minute mark. But great performance all round from Team Queso in this series. I'm sure they'll have a lot to think about and a lot to work on off the back of this game. But I think Team Dark are no easy opponents. They're not super easy. They're definitely a top team in Europe. So it was definitely going to be hard fought from start to finish. I think we should take a look at the player of the game, by the way, Stu. I was going to jump into that and have the player of the game. What do you think it's going to be?
We'll have to take a look at the play of the game. It might be the triple kill, honestly, by Veos in the Baron lane. Could also be the Nexus defense as well. But yeah, it's going to be the triple kill by Veos. Again, the overextension really and the mistakes from Team Dark just proved crucial in the second game. And Veos, when you have the smoke screen available, when you have all these dashes available with a champion like Akali, she's just so hard to deal with. And you can see that she was able to get the triple kill, and that proves to be costly really for Team Dark. They're going to go down to the losers bracket now, and unfortunately for them, they've only got really one lost chance in this tournament.
Absolutely, and I think this is we talked about it last time, the losers bracket and then the main stage. Do or die a lot of the time, but this is literally do or die. Like, you have to perform in the last chance qualifier playoffs or you are literally out. We are standing by with an interview. Hells is, I think, got someone from Team Queso. I'm not entirely sure who it is. Let's leave it to a surprise, and we'll see who Hells has got on the other side of the phone.
Yeah, thank you very much, Alexander. We got Vegas, the Akali, right? That was amazing. Yeah. Congratulations on the victory. That was a very convincing victory. How are you feeling after winning it with a clean 2-0?
I mean, it obviously feels great because scrims last week, well, we struggled a bit, especially in mid-game. But generally, I feel like we proved that we're actually a team that can win the entire last chance qualifier. So I think we stepped up a lot in the tournament and in the series against Team Dark, especially compared to our last showing against Formulation Gaming.
Yeah, definitely. You guys did a great job, and especially you won that Akali, as we highlighted, right? 2 games in a row. And then talking about the next series, you're going to be up against WREC. So how do you feel matching up against WREC? You're both known to be one of the best teams in Europe. So how are you feeling matching up against them next?
WREC GG is always a really hard opponent, obviously. They reached the finals against Gamelord and they lost. That's why they are here. They have a lot of macro skill and individual skill, so we should definitely not underrate them. But after our showing and after our performance against Team Dark, I believe we can definitely beat them, just like any other team in the league.
And I really want to ask you this, but so you guys won the game twice, or won this series with kind of the old meta picks, right? With the old meta picks. Can we expect to see some other things? I don't want you to spoil us because it's obviously your tactics, but can we expect stuff like the split pushers, some new jungle picks, some new picks in the coming games?
Well, obviously, I can't tell too much about this, but we got some spicy things prepared, especially with the new items. We got some spicy things prepared we didn't show against Team Dark, but we will definitely show them later in the tournament.
Yeah, that's great to hear, right? That's great to hear, especially because it's still a surprise because you didn't show them yet. So I'm very excited to see what you're going to be bringing up against WREC Gaming. I wish you the best of luck and I hope to see you after that series as well here in the interview. And yeah, back to the casters to end the series then.
I love Veos. He's a really nice guy and obviously quite humble as well, I think, you know, in terms of the fact that he just slaughtered Team Dark by himself. Let's take a look. I think there is a MVP now, and I wonder who that's going to be.
I
think it might be the man that we just spoke to. I think it might be Veos. Yes, it's Veos. It deserves it every step of the way. 27 KDA, by the way.
It's an absolutely disgusting KDA stat. I think it's probably the largest KDA stat that we've had from the WREC so far, and he completely deserved it. I don't think there was anyone that really said like, oh, maybe it's this player, maybe it's this player. Veos by far the standout performance for Team Case, and I feel like Veos in general didn't really stand out too much for me in the main event of the WREC, but proving here that he can still be one of the carries for Team Case, and they don't have to rely so much on Andreas.
But yeah, I think actually, you know, Andre had a good series, but not the best I've ever seen. And Veos really did step up massively on this Akali. Like both games, I think really was the reason that Team Queso won. I think without Veos on the Akali, they might have even struggled to close out that series versus Team Dark. So great performance from Veos. Good performance from both of our two teams today, both WREC and Team Queso, taking those 2-0 victories to ensure that they're moving through that winner's bracket. Hells, you are back here. Had a good day, Hells. You enjoyed watching that series on the sidelines?
I mean, yeah, definitely. I really loved it. Even though it was kind of old meta picks, I loved it, especially Vegas on that Akali. It's always great to see players pick these hyper carry champions and pull it off so well like Vegas did, right?
Absolutely. And then Stu, Rick's looking just as good as they did realistically, and even better maybe on 3.1, right?
Yeah, I think they bounced back really, really well from their previous finals defeat to Game Lord. And I feel like the two teams that won today could be, you know, the teams that we could be seeing, you know, at Barcelona as well for the main event. So it's going to be interesting to see how they come up against each other in the next round as well. But both the teams looking really, really strong, bouncing back, because both of them, you know, both Team Queso and WREC, the last time we saw them were very, very disappointing, really. So it's going to be interesting how they play as well in the next round.
Absolutely. Speaking of the next round, let's take a look at the bracket and see where we are after today's games and see what we've got coming your way for the rest of the weekend too. You can see that Queso will now meet WREC in the next game in the upper bracket. They both won their series 2-0. Tomorrow we have Viv, absolute wild card. Really great performance from them from the main bracket. I think it's surpassing everyone's expectations. They'll be taking on Team Sapphire, and Formulation Gaming, the team that actually knocked out Team Queso, will be taking on KTRL as well. So a couple more series coming your way tomorrow. We can take a look at the schedule as well. Well, obviously the losers bracket with Clash and Team Dark finding their way to that first round of the losers bracket. But now we can take a look at the schedule coming up. Tomorrow you have Viv versus Team Sapphire and FG versus Control. So you can see, although actually, is RNT, is that supposed to be short for Sapphire, Stu? You probably know better than I do. That's got to be the worst acronym for Team Sapphire.
No, I think it's because like Team Sapphire going through a stage at the moment where they're getting, you know, I think that Team Revenant, where it's Revenant Esports, so I think they're getting picked up by an organisation. So that's why the graphic might be
okay. So there was a little bit of a discrepancy there. So they're getting picked up by an organisation. I was thinking,
so Team Sapphire. Team Sapphire used to be Aphelion Esports from the previous bracket. I think it didn't really work out with them, so they came through with Team Sapphire, which was kind of their name that they came up with. But then I think they're being picked up by Revenant Esports. That's why you've seen that in the graphics.
I was thinking like, someone needs to fire whoever made that acronym for Sapphire, because it's good to see the guys are getting the support though from organizations coming into the last chance qualifier here. And I think really looking forward to seeing how the rest of the teams perform, especially looking forward to seeing Viv play tomorrow, given their really excellent performance in the Wild Rift, the WREC main stage. But Stuart and Hells, that's going to be it from us today here at the first day of the last chance qualifiers. It's been an exciting day. Expected victors have won. Seen them performing well on the new patch. Let's see how the rest of the teams tackle it as well from tomorrow and beyond. We will see you very soon.